advertise their capabilities. That can be in a hierarchy. We can do anything we want behind the scenes on that, but
Right.
how it's presented is in a single interaction with Dave.
Right.
And how.
So what I might be able to do then, tell me if this makes sense, is take, for example, this function call ls paths /
Mhm.
if this function call required or to complete its job did other function calls within the artifact tree, that would just be presented under here so that
Nested
nested,
would be ideal. Yeah.
nested, so that if, first of all, you can get some feedback on what's going on. Second of all, if one of these function calls is to an AI, then you can see the workings of it here too.
Yeah.
All out to
Yeah.
the court, then
Yeah. It's similar to setting verbose, right? This is verbose. Maybe
correct.
Dave
Yeah,
doesn't care about it.
yeah,
Maybe he does. So it's like, tell me what you're thinking, and here we go.
mm.
Um, and it's available there, and maybe
Yeah, and so I think that that's the way to go. Where there really is only one Hal. Hal navigates the file system ad infinitum. It uses things like ls that give sort of all this kind of information back, and it figures out what to do. It figures out what to do based on an expanding amount of information. And then what I think I will do is add, because I had to add the functions. When you boot, I have to add a bunch of base functions, just because you got to start somewhere.
Mhm.
In the documentation, which I promise I won't bore you with too much, but it does allow me some freedom for adding in each time I call a run.
Mhm.
I can add new functions.
Mhm.
So what I can do is whatever path Hal finds himself in, I can take the API for that path and I can add it as tools that, so long as you're at that path in the file system, you can have these tools.
And there's the real question. I mean, yes, for sure.
Yeah,
But is how passing off a request to another AI node to another AI node, and that
maybe,
each has the
maybe,
context.
maybe, but that would all be part of the function parameters.
Hmm.
So if it was making a call to something that required a bit of conversational context or something like that, that would just be part of the parameters that you supply to the function.
Hmm.
And that, I think, is how it needs to look, because you can't have, there's a little cluster of AIs that handle what you drew on the whiteboard, right? Which is that
Hmm.
sort of, you've got the guardian, the ruler,
Yeah,
you got
yeah,
those types of little, that structures like this tiny little mini workflow.
yeah,
But those, there shouldn't be, you shouldn't have a natural language conversation with the customer record, because Hal knows enough about the customer record and the schema within it to just make the call. Hal knows how to have the conversation with Dave. The goaling,
yeah,
is what can allow us that isolation of threads so that the session doesn't get polluted.
yeah, yeah. So one of the things I've got on my notepad, and bear with me because this is a half-formed thought, but
Yeah,
the guardian, the ruler, etc. I was thinking, is there a real-world analogy that would help us here? And the one thing I was thinking about is Prime Minister in the UK
yeah,
has a
yeah,
whole bunch of advisors, those advisors can't dictate to Hal or the Prime Minister what he does, but
Right,
he can say, right, okay, here's additional context. Yeah, you're going
right,
beyond the pale here.
right,
When you put it back, you want to
right. So
respect
that
his.
type of the issue or the design change that I'm putting forwards here
Mhm,
is that previously I had imagined that the Prime Minister talking to an advisor would have you'd show it as a separate thread, and I was planning to make it somehow different to just making a function call, but
mhm.
actually it's the same. It's just a function call with some arguments where the argument might be natural language context,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
for
then
sure.
under the hood, I can surface the fact that, an agent has been thinking some other tools were called. That's all by the by, but it's all just as far as Hal and Dave are concerned, it's just function calls into artifact.
Yes, yes.
And I think that's just
I think that's that's a really important point.
yeah.
Dave only ever talks to Hal.
Mm,
The Hal, I think, has a really primary importance in that discourse there.
right,
Now, Hal can um,
but
show his thinking behind. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
absolutely. Hal plus goals is all the segmentation we need to keep the machines focused.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Without goals, we would have needed alternate methods of isolation, but goaling is uh, feels like it solves two problems at once.
Yeah.
It focuses the user's intent and presents it back to them so that they can immediately object if it's wrong, and it allows scoping of task as though you were talking to a different AI.
Yeah. 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 And the goals are really they're really interesting because people switch context. If I was to start to talk to you about what I had for dinner tonight, and then start to talk about how we structure AIs,
Yeah,
how we should be able to deal with that,
that's
and
right.
not get
Right.
polluted
Part
with
of
yeah,
yeah, part of natural language is this complete gibberish stream of consciousness that switches all over the place,
yeah,
and yeah, it shouldn't pollute the stream like it does currently.
yes. I think that's really powerful.
Okay.
Um,
All right. Well,
yeah,
I think
good
I
stuff.
know what I'm building then.
I got one question about the Guardian about we were talking about um being beyond the pale, as in
Yep.
you're in the Wild West, or you're within the Eastboard US 1900s sort of thing. So you are within the law and you're outside the law, but there's no reason that you can't go into the Wild West. I've been thinking through if I was a business user using this, the CRM guys, saying, I really prefer you to go to the Wild West in your own time. Thank you very much. So,
Yeah. So I mean that's useful in that instead of a customer portal for customers to manage their own accounts, we would be providing a conversation with Hal, and that is tempting to do a bunch of other things, but we're only going to pay for like $1 worth of credits for them, uh, complimentary, and then after that, it's going to try and sign them up through our workflow so that we can get their credit card off them,
mm,
because it's like, well, we need you to use the system so that it saves time for our customer, the trucking company. But if
mm,
you want to use this tool somewhere else, you're more than welcome to. It's just that they're not going to pay for you to do that more than just a trivial test.
mm,
So that's why beyond the pale is important, because you're like, well, hey, you know, this particular company is paying for your usage here, and you're asking for something that doesn't directly interact with their business. You can continue, but you need to pay for yourself.
I think that's the important point of the context switch.
Yeah, and
So
I want
it's
to
like,
add an important
mm,
an important goal I have is that if we had, say, two companies, like a cleaning company and a trucking company, and both were using HAL as the means of interaction, the context switch should detect that they switched over from dealing with the trucking company to dealing with the cleaning, and now the bill goes to the cleaning company because,
right, right,
right?
right, right,
But then
exactly.
as soon as
Or
they
or
get
go to
out,
their personal account. If
right, right,
if Doreen starts to talk about recipes for chili,
that's right,
um, you can pay for that. That's
yeah,
fine.
that's right,
But it doesn't pollute what we're actually asking, and importantly, it doesn't
that's right.
impact
But
the function calls to the
yeah,
data.
I'm absolutely not interested in building systems that try to tell a user they can't do something. I'll only be interested in saying, uh, you need to pay for that yourself. Like we don't want to restrict usage
Oh
in
yeah,
any
no,
way.
I absolutely agree. Because ultimately, it's the three box, and
Three box, yeah,
crack
three
crack
box or
on,
death,
crack
basically.
on. But the question is, can you do any damage to the CRM? If the context is CRM, no, then you've got your in your guidelines, and
Well,
then
it's
you've
not.
got our back and so
There's two layers of protection. There's
on.
first of all the Guardian will run, which is
Mm.
actually for Hal's protection, not for anyone else's. It's really just to stop Hal eagerly having a crack at something that he's not trained to do. Like
Yeah,
he's
and
when
getting in the shit. Yeah,
when he's out of
yeah.
his element, when he's out of his element, he needs to actually just
It's
stop.
gonna you create a new object called a kitchen, and it's like it
Yeah,
comes.
I mean, I saw that and I'm like, it's not wrong, but it's definitely not what I want. So,
Yeah,
like, I was
exactly.
surprised that that came out. Like, I'm like, well, you did make a kitchen, that's true,
Yeah.
but this has got nothing to do with what I want.
Well, there's a point here. Sorry, let me think with this. There's a point here. We've been talking about context switch in terms of session pollution.
Yes,
In order to get highly refined and useful HAL outputs.
right,
There's also something about pollution of the artifact around. Um, Take the CRM guys; they
yeah.
don't want their database with kitchen designs because
That is handled by Artifact itself because the CRM cannot be added to willy nilly. Plus, there's role based access control on there anyway. So there's two
yeah, that's what you
layers.
said a few
The
hours ago. Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
second layer is the hard, crunchy, conventional. Like no, computer says no.
yeah,
Hal
yeah.
softens that with computer says maybe if we can sort of work
Computer
around it.
says, well, yeah, you can, but you're paying
Yeah,
for it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're not going to be able to fuck around with the CRM
Yeah,
guys.
but
Yeah,
the second level is that Hal's Guardian is really just there to stop incompetence coming through the system.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think we're approaching something that possibly could be enterprise.
Yep, sounds good.
'Cause,
Okay,
GDP
so
definitely is
what
not.
I'm gonna do, see where it's got these actions.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I had already built a system that takes, for example, all of
Mm.
the shell like this I built a year ago, and it takes all the API that you see at forward slash and just presents it as
Oh, okay.
little
All right.
nugget,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so
No,
what I'm going to
cool.
do is take these panels and generate. Uh, oh, sorry, it regenerates every time. Um, so
There's a there's a couple
where
of
it
cents
goes
gone there.
less. There's not even a where it goes ls, and you get this API. This exact API is what gets generated. Sorry, I got the hiccups or something. Um, that exact API is what I just showed you generated in GUI form.
Mm-hmm.
So this this JavaScript object was just crude to just dump it to the viewer, but I will make those little panels replace this so that you can actually see with a little more, like it
Yeah,
surfaces the description, it surfaces all these different things, and makes it look human reasonable, human
yeah,
doable.
yeah. Well, I don't think you need to translate it. There's a certain amount of comfort seeing the JSON structure because there's so
For you,
much.
for you,
Yeah,
not
but
for anybody
oh,
else.
okay. Well, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, yeah. That's a good point. I like seeing the structure behind it because it's like, so this is not absolute
That's
chaos and
fine.
magic.
Yep, that's fine. But no one else wants that.
No, no, nobody else cares. Okay. No, back in the box.
Anyway, okay, so yeah, so that's what I'll present there. How would a court call go? How would a call to the court look?
So, I've been refining the thing, but if you want to bring up the previous whiteboard, or maybe I should just take a photo of where we got word. No second. I'm currently at a disadvantage because of this headset. I've broken every set of glasses I've got.
Bugger.
And I'm considering bringing new glasses tomorrow.
Which whiteboard do you want?
The one that we had the court cycle up on.
The court cycle.
Give me 2 secs. That's actually, I think, probably how I did by now. But let's see if it's good enough. Nope.
No.
Other one. 2 secs. I'm going to take the headset off. Be right back.
Okay.
Hey.
Hey.
I know you're bringing up court as an example to run through the thinking. I've
But
also got a stuck loop. Your choice, but it's to highlight our thinking around the
okay.
guardian, etc.
The clarity of thought I was looking for was I just wanted to walk through a potential call to an AINode that is going to call on some AI resources to do something so that we can simulate what it means to make these kinds of calls.
All right. Give me 2 secs. I think probably and this is our thinking is progressing quite quickly, so it's probably out of date as well. Also, I'm not that good with paper management. I've got lots of paper going on. But let me ping this over. Because that would do, I think, as terms of a. Oh shit! How to get onto here? Oh, fuck's sake.
Oh hey, X-State Studio 2.0 was released. So, you know how we're talking about, like, over on the wall over there, the
Yeah,
poster behind you is the state chart. Maybe you want
yeah.
to have a go at producing that in uh, X-State 2.0, maybe.
Is that the package that you created the state chart that we were talking about 2 months ago, something like that?
Yes, correct.
That would be. I don't know what the overhead of learning that tool is, but
Very, very limited. But the benefit is
uh,
that it allows us to update it in a way and sort of commit it to GitHub so that we can have it as a reference. Because
okay.
right now it's sort of, I mean, that thing in the corner is our canonical version, and
But
it's hard
you
to.
can't see it, but I'm waving another piece of paper. I'm drowning in paper here. But also the limitation of the paper is not versioning is the least of it. It's the paper keeps on tending because what I'm trying to do is to get those JSON calls that you wanted,
Yeah,
but it tends towards pushing it towards a state chart as opposed to simple commas.
yeah, I know, I
And
know.
it's
So
like
there's a
it's
bit
really
of a dead zone, I guess, because as soon as I can get a working version up, we can iterate on the working version
yeah.
as the reference. It would be nice to be able to surface it using some of the X-state graphical elements so that when you want to populate the state board showing, how the whole cycle works, it's sort of able to explain its architecture in this way instead of just
Yeah,
function calls
um,
around the tree.
that'd be really cool because the thing that I really don't have on these pieces of paper, and they are getting it to really piss me off, is it doesn't take into account artifact because everything is updating artifact as you
Mm,
go through, and there's kind of an assumption.
yeah,
So can you ping me over the link to what I should look at, and we'll try and
sure.
get this in. Um, the I'm always reticent to use tools because they tend to be time synced. But
Yeah, and
I
then
think
there's
it's
other.
you come out the other end when you actually, the time sync part is over and it's actually better. But I have very little patience for tools
Okay,
because
so this was the Ethereum smart contract. And let's just go make a new one.
I think it's probably about time I put it into digital. If nothing else, I'm bored of. Problem with doing it on paper. Paper is really great in that you can just like chuck stuff down
Well, look,
quickly.
you could do it in
But
Markdown. I'd happily take Markdown just like we did with that initial posting. But
yeah, Markdown doesn't really incorporate state though. I mean, you can have a flow for sure. That's easy. But state changes in Markdown get really fiddly. Um, so, for example, the are stuck as an object that's being moved around and added to by various agents in the flow, but every agent has got access to that object. That's not easy to do on paper or on Markdown, I think. I've never used this tool, so I'm hoping it's going to be quick and easy.
yeah, quick and
Uh,
easy is not a way I'd describe any tool actually. But
this is why I hate tools.
yeah, so I mean, it does let you sort of uh, you can rapidly kind of like I can click here and then I can just make a new state, right? And then the event is where you would detail out uh, what was the data contained within that, for example.
Okay, all right. I'll have to look at that.
I don't know. I might be wasting your time with it. It might not be. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'll give it an hour tomorrow. I'll time
Because
box it.
here's properties, right? So you can be like, thank you note, type string, right? Add entry, value, transferred. Right? So there is that, which is a useful thing.
Yeah. I'll give it an hour, and if at the end of the hour, I'm not swearing at it, then it might be useful. The the point being, paper's irritating, but
So
dead
is
easy.
everything else.
And there's rapid iteration going on here.
So
I don't
here's
want to
how
be.
that showed up, right? Like this
Uh,
was really a this is a transition, and you can see that within the transition I've been able to define some properties. Those would be the properties that the JSON schema would describe when you're passing an object around, which is a common thing that you were doing yesterday.
yeah,
Right.
okay.
And so the action, you might say that you want to, first of all, you want to transition from the stuck bucket out to, resolved or whatever we decide to make that. And then you'd also trigger a court run using an action, but you'd also pass the data would be like, the address of the stuck, a description of it, blah, 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 blah. And so you define your action there. Now, it might be better for you to do it in paper.
Yeah.
But have a go.
I was actually toying this afternoon with the idea of doing paper and then doing a narration with a video. And
Please don't do that to me. What are you going to do next?
I just take my phone and I just talk about
send me a voicemail maybe.
Yeah.
All right, so in particular I want to make sure that I've got it straight for the discoverability of capabilities, because whilst I could just slam everything into one document, if we want a scalable system, we should be able to demonstrate how the scope of knowledge can be expanded and also pruned, because context windows appear to be a feature of the LLMs that's here to stay. Yes, they'll get bigger, they'll change, they'll get cheaper, but it's always some kind of limit, and you don't want to have a design that depends on no limit.
Yeah, I agree. And also, as a general rule of thumb, I like any process that is recursive. It's just easier to think about.
Right. Okay. So
you're gonna you're saying that you want to go through this in light of what we're talking about with Guardian.
Yeah.
And so on.
Yeah. Can I have the other picture up? The one with the purple writing, the one that's on the wall behind you.
Yep, sure. Where is that? There you go. 2 seconds.
I think I have it as well.
Or you can stick up if you got it. I sent it to you.
Erase, huh?
Yeah, that's the top level one. So we did. Why can't I point my laser pointer over there?
Is your little laser not working?
I like my laser.
What do you want to point at it for? Like,
I don't know. I'm really quite weirdly. This laser pointer helps me think about stuff.
Well, it's not working, so how's that? Alright, so...
Okay, yeah. Right, so this is the top level.
Yeah, you got this conversation going on between Dave and Hal, Hal is like, okay, I need to do something.
So what's the what are you trying to achieve by this run through? Are you trying to test something or trying to prove something or
I want to check that my implementation plan for how to discover capabilities that are unknown at boot
right?
is
Okay.
working correctly.
Okay.
So you navigate around using the goaler. The goaler gives you basically a
Yeah.
path in the file system to focus your activities on.
Right.
It pulls out the functions are injected directly into the function calling capability of the assistant, so
Yeah.
that HAL knows that it has its root functions.
Yeah. So
And
this is the what we've been talking. This is like there's a cycle here that's not included around the guardian and response, so and that makes how be more precise. But
yeah,
in essence, it's still a jitter request,
yeah.
just a well-formed and
What
sensible
can you
one.
give me an example jitter request as pertains to, or just what's an example jitter request?
Can you tell me what the weather is in Carden and whether I should take an umbrella out? So there's a couple of things there.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay. What's the weather in Kincardine, and should you take an umbrella?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's a good one.
Uh,
And then Hal's like, so the first round of discovery um, would have been going ls on
mm,
/, and it'd be like, man, I don't know.
mm,
Then I'm going to build a section called apps. Hal would go ls /apps, and it would see, okay, I've got all this other stuff, but nothing that sounds like the weather.
yeah,
Then I'm going to make a function call that goes out that says something like find, where it's seeking for units of help that have been produced, and it's going to find and supply a query string in like weather, Kincardine, umbrella,
yeah.
things like that.
What's the advice on umbrella?
Yeah,
How much
yeah,
rain
yeah. And
is
then
useful?
it's gonna get back something that would look the same as if it had have just run um, ls. Like each of the things that come back are gonna give it a description, a set of API calls that it can do, some sort of documentation effectively. Hal's going to pass that documentation and decide whether or not it can assemble these components into a jitter that serves Dave. It's then going to have a first pass at it. It's going to run the function calls. It's going to compare the output, and it's going to think, is this, or assess, is this what Dave asked for? If not,
Oh, sorry, got a question at the end of this. Yeah,
if
go on.
not, it's just going to repeat that until it either says Dave, you're out of money. It says I don't know how to do that, so I'm going to create this stuck. Or hey Dave, take an umbrella.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. How much? So in the this slash is HAL. Everything underneath that is what HAL knows about, and in this structure, it's creating and is being guided to create certain functions.
Right.
That is the if you go flip back to the last page or the picture.
Flip back
That
to the
sounds
picture. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
yeah, that sounds a lot like
There we go.
this. So is this how doing this, or
Yeah,
we
that's
passing
Hal
it on
doing that.
to?
Yeah, and that's the clarity or the change I want to make, because we had imagined it would be some other kind of inode, but
Yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
believe it's just it's it could be done as a function call, where that function call is
Actually,
called
off
by
this.
HAL and it does its
Yeah,
own assessments internally using AI calls, but
yeah.
then spits something back to HAL at the end.
No, I think this is good being how, because effectively this is a cache of things that Dave has asked for,
Right.
and how already
Yeah,
knows about.
Hal
You know,
knows better,
pretty fast. Yeah.
and it's not going to pollute because the goaling is set. Like it's already
Right.
determined what the goaling
Yeah.
is, and so
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And it's
yeah.
like,
So it
you're not
does
asking.
start to look a lot more like one bot, but I think that's okay because it's one bot that um
Well, this is
s-
this is one bot, for sure. Let's walk through this. This is a really useful exercise, actually. So this is the jitter loop is something that How does inside his own hierarchy of functions that he knows about and can create, and has a guardian to make sure he doesn't, you know, he red lights whether he's going off piste or whatever. But this is all How.
right.
So then you get to the point where Hal says, "Sorry, Dave, I have no idea what an umbrella is. I have
Yeah,
no idea what a garden is.
yeah,
Let me just check for you."
right.
I think that is the first point. Hal goes outside.
Yep. And
As soon,
it uses a search function.
right,
Yeah.
like a DNS or however you want
It's
to structure that.
probably, I mean, if we'll probably be fancy and do some sort of vector search because
Right.
we can,
Yeah.
but ultimately it's a search and it comes back with some examples that show promise.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That makes sense to me.
Right, and then each time that something is determined to be of value, of potential value, that's when Hal would then induct the instructions and the functions for using it into the session, into the goal session, and
Yeah.
then it would start operating it as though it knew about it. It really just, the model I have in my head is like a human reading the documentation for a command that they've just been given.
Yeah.
I think that documentation doesn't go away in the AI world. It becomes more important, and documentation is like, I've never read the entire Unix manual. I've read many sections of it. That would be the
Mhm.
same for HAL. There's no point reading the whole thing because the context window gets blown, but you just want to pull out the relevant bits and pieces and you want to sort of mull around.
Well, here's follow-on thought. Is there any use of how say if how wants to know about weather,
Right.
pulls weather, and now it knows about weather. I
Mm-hmm.
can deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Does how ever want to say, has anyone got better weather outside of
Oh,
Dave asking?
that is implied by the thanker. Because the thanker thanked that particular weather implementation, that's an
Uh,
invitation for someone to make a superior one.
right, but there's no pool. How's not pooling on the hierarchy of skills, including weather that he's got. It's just that he's happy because, hey, I can tell what the weather like is in
Yeah,
the
he's
garden.
happy enough. He's happy enough, but there could be a better way to do it, and that
Yeah.
would show up the next time Hal went to do that task.
Um, so there is a cycle out for each of the. Where's my thing gone? Every time Hal is creating a jitter, it's like I've got this skill. Uh, is there anything in the library that's superior to this? No, there's or
Right.
or does he go on for years thinking, all I want to know is temperature. I don't want to know about wind.
Yeah, no, he can reach an end pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's sensible. I think it's sensible. Okay, so then we've got this is Hal now,
Mm.
and Hal has his own set of skills,
Yeah.
and it's like shit, Dave. I've no idea how to do that. Let me go. I'll phone a friend. All right. And he goes, oh yeah, okay, right.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, and however you want to do it, like a sim link or a copy or whatever.
Yeah.
Now he's got a new skill, jitter, happy days. Cool. I like that. That 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 makes a lot of sense. And it's also how it says, hey, stuff coming back from the light. No, that doesn't really get it because I know the context and know the
Yeah,
guardian and I know,
yeah, yeah,
everything that David wants.
yeah.
And so, boom,
The,
stuck.
yeah, and the key thing is that a stuck a stuck is valuable because whilst the solution may exist, not knowing how to look up that information was the stuck. And so the resolution may simply be a pointer or an inclusion or an updating of the dictionary of the documentation that would have allowed that type of question to be resolved
Oh,
immediately.
that's an interesting thing. So, if I understand what you're saying, is can't do it. I'm going to ask the wider address space, can you guys do it?
Yeah,
And it comes back, no, I've got stuck. But part of the stuck loop, which don't have at the moment, is,
yeah.
hey guys, are you sure you didn't have it, or were you just being a bit of a dick?
That's the thing, right? Because it seems to be all about that documentation, or in other words, the descriptions that I put in the API.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Because if you
a stuck
word
my
those
solution
right,
could just be an update to a description of something that already existed.
or just a pointer, like, hey, you wanted this thing, go look at this other thing, like a reference, and then
Right.
just because it told you to go look, like if it was like a pointer from umbrella to waterproof canopy or something
Right.
like that, and
Yeah.
it suddenly like it now knows how to think differently.
That's really cool. Are you recording this, by the way?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. I'm not. This is really high value for me, so if you can send that over after.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so we go back to the chart.
Oh, sorry, the chart. Sorry, my bad.
Oh, the paper. Yeah,
There we go.
yeah, yeah, the scribble. Okay, so now we're in the stuck loop, and the stuck loop uh, can. So there's going to be something in here that we don't have at the moment, which is there anything here that's close? And why did Hal think it wasn't close enough? And can we improve it in the description, or um, maybe we could tweak it really quite quickly, and that can be automated. That
Yeah,
doesn't need humans. And then there's stuff that's completely beyond the pale. It's like I don't know. Nobody knows what an umbrella is, and even
yeah,
the word is not in the dictionary.
right.
And it's like, okay, this is going to take a while.
Yeah, and that's what that the stuck loop is where it's open to innovation. Like that's
Now,
this.
the nested guardian stack, let's call it, I think still applies here.
Why?
This because the because it's the context, isn't it? Stay with me on this one. So how is here, and he's saying,
I think
I've asked for an
I think
umbrella.
that Guardians is a good concept for making any kind of AI tool, and
Uh,
given that we will make tools that are dedicated for working in the context of the stuck loop, we would put Guardians in there as a means of making sure that the responses are always competent. So
yeah,
it's like putting on a
yeah,
suit and tie. It's basically like
yeah,
time to
yeah,
stop playing around. Here you go, suit
exactly.
up.
We got a job to do. We got a
Yeah,
job to do.
yeah, yeah. So I think that's a
Uh,
good. The Guardian is a good model. Rules really only apply to user interactions,
yeah, yes, I agree.
but Guardians apply as a good rule to all iNodes all round town.
yes, I agree. Because we're about to go into court, and I've already previously structured it in a way that fits perfectly with what we're talking about with the Guardians. And
Right.
that it's like you are a Native American dude, and here are the rules that
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
got
yeah.
to be a judge. That's the Guardian.
Right.
Although it's in static, yeah, it should be, I think, more properly
Because
in the AI.
the rules sort of act like a knowledge firewall, where
Yeah, that's a
they
good way of saying it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can allow things in or out through the knowledge firewall, and you can allow different allocations of attention to be spent on different topics, but ultimately it's still a firewall, and it will lock
Yeah.
you if you're trying to do something in a realm, in a semantic area that is forbidden or out of scope. So it's like policed attention.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So I think uh, that is solid for stuck loop. It's
Yep,
solid for core loop.
yep,
Exception loop in the latest diagram somewhere on my desk is actually subsumed into
yep,
um,
yep,
core loop.
yep.
And paymaster,
The thanker.
the thanker. Yeah. Again, the it's kind of the guardian, although the thanker
No,
part.
thinker's different.
Okay. No.
Thinker's not guardian.
No. 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 The thanker uh, has this. Uh, is it?
All of these nodes will have a guardian function that runs
Yes.
within.
Yeah. That's what I'm
Yep,
saying.
every single
So
one.
it's. I was trying to think of that. The place in the brain,
Yeah.
which
So these actually, each one
makes
of
us
these
think.
boxes is a good example of a function call that Hal will make that will trigger AI related operations,
Yes.
and then the function result will just come back to Hal. Hal may require another function input to continue the let's call it the conversation.
Yeah.
But this is where these are inodes. Not not
Yes.
not every blockchain node in Artifact is an inode, but these are inodes.
Yes. Yes. I agree. I agree.
They yeah.
Now, question is, resolve stucks. Are they inodes or are they simple
No,
skips that are public?
they're units of knowledge that can be consumed. Some of them they might be inodes, some of them, and others may be just artifact code. Some of them might be just plain text, just explaining how to do something. That's that's all it takes in some cases.
I agree. There's a general rule here, isn't there? Because each of these are um, require a guardian and a number of loops and are generally quite complex. But um, asking whether you need to take an umbrella if it's raining is dead simple.
Hmm.
Uh, so there's, I don't know what the general rule is, but it sounds like if you need a guardian to keep you inside of on task, and you need the context, and there's any kind of doubt about what the answer is, then we're in these black boxes. But if this is just a box where you throw in a question and you get out an answer, that's not an inode. That's something
What's the
else.
point in separating those two?
The point being, you were asking that, this conversation is about where do you create inodes?
Yeah. I think
So
that inodes are anything that can perform AI functions.
yes. However, what I'm talking about here is each of these black boxes are functions that can only be responsibly carried out by the interaction of multiple inodes, like a guardian and so on.
Yeah, but so what? They present as one. You don't know. You technically don't know what's
Sure.
under the hood.
Yeah, sure, sure. But there does seem to be a hierarchy. But I guess the reason I'm going down this is because your question was where where do we have the dividing line with inodes and
I
um,
think an inode is just. It's become clear to me from our conversation that the wherever you're to perform a function call that was asked of you, you are calling AI powered resources.
mm,
That's an inode. The inode may make artifact function calls that are not using AI powered resources, and those are just regular blockchain nodes.
sure, yeah, no, yeah,
Hal is an example of an inode because the user is making a single function call. I've named that function user, and it's just
mm,
simply a line of text. And that function call goes in, and then Hal uses AI resources to produce a result for the function call. So
mm.
that model fits all the way through.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? That's
Mm.
pretty neat.
Mm.
That's pretty neat.
And look, I know that we can refine this model. There'll be better ways to do than that little mnemonic device that sits
Yeah,
sort of, like goaling rules. There might be some others, we'll see, but
there might be, but let's not die in a ditch over it.
no,
I
the
just
general structure is starting to
coalesce, isn't it? Yeah.
well, it's more like all the noise is being drained out of it. It's just being like vacuum packed down because there's kind of nothing else that you could do. Like it's the only way you can really do LLMs with improvement.
Yeah.
Self-improving LLMs this is sort of the only way that something like this is the only way you can do it.
It's interesting, isn't it? Uh, there's a dude that I came across a few days ago, but I've stayed away from his blog. He's trying to do he's calling it swarms, and what was the other word?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Like, yeah, and I can't remember. It's like he had a board. I can't remember what he called it. Something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
but
Well,
it'd be
that's
quite useful, quite interesting to refer back to him. Well,
all right.
his approach, I think, was wrong, but quite
So
curious to see.
I'm gonna build this thing now, yeah,
Yes,
and
yeah.
then you're gonna make me detailed descriptions of what each of the black boxes does,
I'm
and
going. Yeah, I'm going to try and restrict it to three things: request, response in JSON,
yeah,
auto,
yeah,
and
JSON
some
request,
idea
JSON
of
response if
the
applicable.
yeah, and the action to be carried out, and each of these will have boxes inside of them and so
Yep,
on. But
yep.
that's the model.
Okay,
Request, response, and action, and that's all I've got. That's in my toy box to expand this out.
all right.
This is what I'm trying to do. I hope that's useful.
I
But
think it is. Yeah,
as
and
a discipline thing, it's a good thing to do.
I'll get the version going for the CRM now,
Mm-hmm.
but then the first multi-bot call I'll make will be a simulated courtroom because I like that one because it's heavy. Like there's like, I
Mm.
mean, 20 cents worth of API calls just to say hello. So that'll be a fun one to kick off.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Well, I've got maybe a 75% stuck loop done. Tomorrow, I can look at court loop
Yep.
if that's useful. Probably not
I
before.
don't think, yeah, I wasn't going to do the court loop. I was just going to do the pinballing type of,
Oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah,
just the
yeah. Okay,
experimenting with AIs
yeah,
having an argument between each other.
yeah. I'd love to see that.
It'd
Okay.
be expensive, I think.
Yeah, but kind of cool. I've already simulated some of that 2 days ago when I got the three judges together,
yeah,
the advocate, and they were arguing about whose judgment was the right one. And
right,
that's kind of cool, but it was all
right.
copy and paste.
Yeah, right. So I'll automate that copy paste operation, and then you'll be able to watch it like
Yeah,
bang around.
it does feel a lot like that kind of interaction of AIs feels a lot like what we're looking for is some kind of convergence.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we're seeking because we believe that
Yeah,
inside the LLM is some sort of truth, something like
right.
truth. And if you refine it enough, you're going to get to a point where it can't be changed anymore. And I do believe that humans recognize that as humans
Yeah,
feel like that's agreement because you're like, yep, looks fair
yeah,
enough.
it does, doesn't it? So you go, uh, if you have some kind of exit trigger saying, like, if all the judges over the last cycle
Hmm.
are within,
Within Kui, basically.
yeah, basically, yeah, within close enough, or if you take all of the judges, however many they are,
Yeah,
and you average them,
yeah,
and that's very close to the previous average,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the previous out, and it's
There'll be
the
some kind of
converged,
very
the
simple
converged.
rule to
Yeah,
say that okay, the court has reached consensus because
right.
you know
Because nobody gives a shit anymore, and they all want to get
that's right,
home.
that's right,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
cool.
Fun
Right,
times. Okay,
nice one. Well, I'm going to continue on my really shitty diagrams.
all right.
Now,
I'll implement
so
Hell for the CRM using that exact model, and I'll start on the Guardian.
yeah, cool, very cool. Tomorrow, so what time is it here? It's 1:15. Um, uh, Probably going to get my head down now and just to get back in now. Just on parish notices, I promised Jude a night out on Saturday.
Okay.
Uh, I think today is Friday or Thursday. Today's Thursday, right?
So when am I seeing you next?
So not in 12 hours time, but
Yeah.
I think what I can do is I get maybe a half night shift slot in
Why don't you
roughly
send me
24
your
hours.
next available slots, and I'll tell you which ones I can make it to or not.
Yeah, cool. The reason I'm saying a half is, oh, I haven't checked whether that's appropriate or not. But these night slots are working great because I'm actually getting more time with Jude, weirdly.
Funny, right? How
Yeah,
to get right?
it's
Like how to
weird.
get better metrics across the board.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to try that, but then there's going to be over the weekend. Essentially, there's going to be a blackout, and then
That's
we
cool.
got a whole new week.
That's cool. Alrighty.
All right, nice
All
one.
right, all right, buddy. I'll see you later then.
Yeah, have fun.
You too.
Just watch for the basilisk.
It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming, man.